Hello viewer, and thank you very much for joining us on The People Show today. Our guest is very special today, and she's here to help us discuss a very interesting topic. We are talking about matters environment, and today, to be more specific, we're talking about the Earth Day. The Earth Day was established in the year 1970, and since then, April 22nd has been the date commemorating the Earth Day globally. And today, to help us discuss this further, we have with us in studio Abigail Kiprono, who is the Africa Youth Lead for the MAPS initiative. Abigail Kiprono. Karibu sana, Abigail.
Asante.
Abigail, in a nutshell, who is Abigail Kiprono?
My name is Abigail Kiprono, as you mentioned. I am a very passionate environmentalist. I am currently the Africa Youth Lead for MAPS. MAPS stands for Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary.
Right.
Apart from that, I am just a recent graduate from Kenyatta University. I have not yet graduated, but hopefully by the end of the year.
Majoring in?
I studied environmental science in
right.
resource conservation. Yes.
Environmental science in resource conservation. Why would a girl study environmental science in resource conservation?
To be honest, I chose this course out of lacking options. I wanted to be a lawyer growing up, but then because the grade I got was not enough for me to get into law school. So I chose environmental science without really knowing what I was getting myself into. But I'm glad I chose it because it has made me who I am.
So after choosing the course and after starting, studying, then you realize that it's an environment that you want to continue being in.
Yes.
Where did you grow up, Abby?
I am from Elgeyo Marakwet County. I grew up in a small town called Iten.
Iten?
Yes.
So
the home of champions.
The home of champions.
Yes.
I know long distance runners.
Yes,
train
hail
there.
from there.
Then when did you move to Nairobi?
I moved to Nairobi when I was joining campus in 2015.
When you're joining campus?
Yes.
All right. So wesi mwenyeji sana Nairobi?
Pana.
You stay for how long? Like 3-4 years?
Yeah, the 4th year now.
The 4th year.
Yes.
Well, Abigail, besides that, as a child growing up, you said you wanted to be a lawyer. What made you think that law is what you wanted to do?
Every child growing up usually has something they want to do. And most of the time I feel like we usually go for these courses that are presumed to be top-notch. So I wanted to be a lawyer because I loved arguing points in class, and I just loved how they would dress up so decently, and I wanted to be that kind of person in future. Yes.
So in school you are ule mse wa debate club na nini?
Yes. Yes.
In class very noisy?
Not really. I was a very I can say I had my days where I was noisy and other times I was quite a chilled person.
All right, Abigail, that aside, today we discuss, I understand this week we are in the Earth Week.
Yes.
Although the Earth Day was commemorated on the 22nd, but then the whole of this week is just a week to create awareness about the environment. What kind of activities do you engage yourself in in your line as an environmental activist?
Well, it depends because sometimes we organize events. So for example, this Monday, which was the Earth Day on the 22nd of April, there was an event by poverty.org called Maps for Kenya. So basically it was a way of bringing people together and sharing the message of MAPS, getting more people to understand what it is we are fighting for as MAPS. Yes, so we were at Arocha Kenya grounds in Karen. So we had a session for MAPS presentation, then we had discussions from people from different entities because so many of them were in different environmental fields. So apart from that, we also had a few team building activities, a few dancing sessions here and there. It was quite fun.
It was quite fun.
Yes.
I know I was invited to the event. I confirmed my attendance, but then I realized that some program was conflicting with attending there. But then, last time we had one of your colleagues actually come to the show.
Yes.
And when he came, he was actually coming to represent Darcy, whom we already introduced to our viewers in the other episode. Darcy was an advocate of the environment.
Yes.
And his life ended, you know, tragically in the Ethiopian airline crash that took place, I think, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
He was actually coming to this show.
I know.
And somehow that makes me feel like there's some kind of attachment with your organization and the People Show, because you know, every time we come into contact, then there's something important that we are discussing. Besides that, you know, why is it important for people to understand about the environment? Why push for environmental issues or for environmental education to the publics?
First and foremost, I usually view the environment as a ship. It is a ship that we are on. We are sailing in deep waters. So if anything goes wrong, then it means we are going to sink.
All
so
of us together.
Yes. So as much as possible, we have to try and stay set, stay upright, so that we don't end up damaging this ship that we are on.
All right.
So environment is for everyone. It's not just for us environmentalists, or rather activists who want a better environment.
Yes.
Everyone uses the environment. Everyone is involved with the environment in one way or another. Therefore, I feel like everyone should understand the importance of protecting the environment. Yes.
Now, in the video, we had Parvati mention that the Arctic is the air conditioning of the Earth. Could you break this down a little for our viewer who, to them, this sounds like some rocket science, something out of the blue?
Okay. So at poverty.org, we love specifying that we advocate for the protection of the Arctic Ocean, not the entire Arctic land use. So the Arctic Ocean is covered with ice.
Yes.
It is covered with ice. And scientists say that as at now we are 75% less of the ice that existed in the 1800s, which means we are really losing a lot of ice. So MAPS advocates, MAPS stands for Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary, which tries to protect the Arctic Ocean from the exploitation. So the more we are losing the ice, the more much of the heat from the sun is absorbed.
Or absorbed into the Earth's surface.
Yes. So the more we lose the ice, the more heat is absorbed instead of it being reflected back.
All right.
Yes.
How, I mean, the heat damages the Earth in one way or the other?
Eventually we will experience global warming, which is very evident because recently we couldn't cover ourselves with blankets at night because the temperatures were really high.
Sure, sure.
Yes.
And I would say also we experienced an unusually longer dry spell. The rains, which were supposed to start somewhere in the second or first week of April, came just the other day towards the end of the month.
Yes.
Now, having said that, you know, as we engage the publics, because when you talk about environmental issues and when you talk about the Earth Day, it's generally about the ecosystem. I want to believe so. What's the relation with that, with us human, you know? So what, kama, you know, samaki wanakufa ama mvua yenyeshi, you know, some people will look at it very lightly. But then you, as an environmentalist who campaigns and champions for the preservation or conservation of the same, what would you tell that simplistic mind that thinks environment has nothing to do with my livelihood?
First of all, the Earth does not exist alone. We are interconnected in very minute ways.
Yes.
You would go to your farm to get food for your family. That means you're using a product of the environment to sustain yourself.
Yes.
We have food chains, like we studied in science back in primary school or high school. You would see how there's a cycle of food chains, and this animal feeds on this, and it can't survive without this other animal.
Sure.
So you see, we are interconnected in very many ways.
Yes.
Another issue is, for example, the industries. Some of them use raw materials from the environment. Then how would they produce these products that are the commercial products in the market without the raw materials from the environment?
Sure.
So you see, we are interconnected. We cannot separate ourselves.
Industry like the leather industry and so on and so forth. Now, I was just looking around, and then I realized one thing, that as you mentioned, we are fast losing the ice in the Arctic Ocean.
Yes.
And there's so many activities also going on in terms of things like fishing. How is this accelerating the loss of ice in the Arctic?
Well, we know when we are going to fish, we definitely can't walk on our feet. We have to use ship, we have to use vessels, we have to use boats. And you do realize when this ship is passing above those ice, it cracks. It causes the ice to crack.
Yes.
And that means more exposure of the ocean. And thus, as I had said earlier, more heat is absorbed. And so when the ice keeps cracking, it loses its strength, and then it ends up melting. So we keep losing more ice. But it is important to note that MAPS does not totally say people shouldn't fish, because you do realize there are communities, local communities, there who use fish for consumption, for subsistence purposes. So it allows them to do that, but not to the extent of overfishing. Yes.
Does the loss of ice cause extinction to some species of animals in the Arctic?
Yes, it does. I don't know if you've ever seen this beautiful creature called the polar bears.
The polar bears is
the seal.
All white and stuff.
Yes. So when more ice is lost, then it means the ecosystem around it cannot sustain its survival, because it depends on that ice for survival. So the more ice is lost, then it means it loses its habitat, and the conditions will not be favorable for it to survive. Yes.
So it needs that temperature to survive.
So yes.
If that goes down, then
you're losing more.
You know, when you explain this, you explain them with so much, how can I say, passion. Why would one have passion about the environment? Specifically, Abigail, why are you so passionate about the environment?
You know, I will be very honest with you. Yes. After my high school, I did not have a clue about what environmental conservation entailed. Yes. But when I went to Kenyatta University, I joined this club called Kenyatta University Environmental Club. And so I got a chance to be the first year representative, and being in that space opened my eyes to so many things. It made me realize how important it is for me to play a role in conserving the environment. And there's a saying that goes, not all heroes wear caps. You know, we may not be recognized as heroes, but we are actually protecting this ship that we are on for the entire humanity. And I feel like it's not supposed to be us alone, because we are all using this environment. And that really made me grow so much passion, because I could relate with so much of the things that were happening around, including, I come from an area that used to experience so much rainfall, but these days it has reduced, and it is very sad to note how much our forests are being destroyed, and all other factors. And that made me take a step to be an activist and to conserve the environment for the entire humanity. Yes.
Speaking of which, there's the issue of the Mau forest, which, every time you mention the Mau forest in Kenya, the first thing that comes to people's minds is politics, how the issue has been politicized.
Yeah.
But what really is the reality behind the Mau forest? Because, satellite photos showed some, I would call it like, it's a gruesome cutting down of trees that happened in just a few years. And it's one of what we are told by scientists or environmentalists that it's the water catchment
Yes.
of the country.
Yes.
How important is such a site to Kenya as a country?
As you've mentioned, the Mau Forest is one of Kenya's greatest water tower. Water catchment, that means most of our rivers flow from those regions.
All right.
And so we, in a simple language, we used to study that trees attract rainfall.
Yes.
Yes. So it is a very important resource for the country because it has such rich biodiversity, and again, it supplies water all around the country. I'm not very familiar with the specific rivers that flow through it, but I know it is one of Kenya's greatest water tower. And apart from that, trees also act as carbon sinks. So as we emit a lot of carbon dioxide from our vehicles, from our industries, we need more forest and other forests to trap this carbon for us so that we don't end up getting adverse effects of climate change. Yes.
Now, when you explain it like that, it makes a lot of sense to me. But the painful thing is that Kenyans still don't get it. It's always still about politics. You as an environmentalist, I'd like to know more. I would like to know your personal feeling, because this is not just about the environment. As you said, we cannot exist alone. The earth does not just stand alone.
Yes.
It's an ecosystem.
Yes.
What goes through your mind when people just politic about this? Even our leaders, whenever they touch the issue of Mau Forest, it's a dispute about whether people should be moved or people should not be moved, or whether people should stay, or whether, what goes through your mind as an environmentalist and as someone who understands the importance of such a tower in Kenya?
When you talk about our leaders, I become so speechless, because I am surprised at how people have lost heart for the earth itself. Mau Forest used to have people inhabit it long before this politics came alive. We had the Ogiek, who are the indigenous people who used to live there, and they used to coexist with the forest and the biodiversity that existed there. But now, as population keeps growing, then we are bound to experience such things. I feel like there's always a conflict when it comes to conservation and development. Those two can never meet. We will always have a conflict. We've had issues with the standard gauge railway passing through the park. Yes, we talked about it, we rallied about it, but nothing was done because there's always a conflict between development and conservation. But I feel like we need to get to a place where we do things sustainably. There's something called sustainable development, which has the three aspects: the economic, the social, and the environment. When these three are brought together, then we are able to experience development and at the same time ensure that we have enough resources to sustain our future generations. Yes.
Talk about the standard gauge railway. If we cross to our neighboring Tanzania, there was a similar, noise when there was a road being, constructed through the Serengeti. Is it an African problem? Because, the government there, I don't want to use, hard words. I don't want to be seen like I'm going against the government, but it also turned a deaf ear to the noises that were being made about not constructing a road passing through the Serengeti. And they went on, and there's a highway cutting right through the Serengeti. Is it an African problem?
I wouldn't say it's an African problem. I just feel we do understand. I will not speak for Tanzania because I don't know so much about their political landscape. I'll talk about Kenya. for Kenya, we know our biggest problem is corruption. And most of the time, these leaders would not just do things out of, they wouldn't do it for us. They would, there's always
a catch.
there's always a catch for them to do something. So it's sad. It's very sad because we really need to step out of this monster called corruption. Yes.
Well, we take a short break. When we come back, I would like to engage you more and mostly on the kind of event that you guys held earlier this week. That was on Monday, the 22nd, the Earth Day. Viewer, we now take a short break. If you have any comments, suggestions, or opinion, you can reach us on 21144. 21144 is the number. You can also drop us an email on info@gbskenya.com. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Everywhere GBS.
Welcome back, viewer. If you are just joining us, you're watching The People Show with me, Timothy Omondi. My guest today, Abigail Kiprono. Abigail, right before the break, we were talking about how economic growth and conservation are actually conflicting in parts. And during the break, we were talking about, you know, how the SGR was somehow justified that at first it was supposed to pass right on the, you know, surface, but then they lifted it up to a level where they said now giraffes can pass underneath and elephants, and so no interference. But then there's something important that you mentioned that I'd like you also to maybe just touch a little bit on the interference of the, what you call the wildlife corridor.
Yes.
Yeah. How is this so?
For those who visited, for example, the Nairobi National Park,
Yes.
usually you can go for the game drive in the morning and in the evening. There are specific times in which these animals come out, and there's a specific path they use.
Yes.
So this construction of the SGR that cut through across the park tampered with the corridors that these animals would use. So maybe that is where they used to know, once I use this route, I'll get to a water point and I'll take water. So you see that interference again, and also just tampering with the biodiversity in the park itself became a problem, because you do realize, as I mentioned, the food chain. So some of these animals feed on these animals, and probably they were killed in the process. So
scattered.
it just tampers with the entire food chain, and we end up losing a great biodiversity. Yes.
Makes a lot of sense. And I mean, it's quite surprising because we have an environmental organization, an organization that actually is a watchdog of the environment in Kenya, which is the National Environmental Authority, NEMA. Have they really done their job? I mean, if that's quite evident that this kind of interference was done, right?
Yeah.
Was experienced, then what do we say about that? What do you environmental, do you just keep quiet? Do you go to their door and knock and make noise and tell them, hey guys, this is happening, and if you did, what justification do they have to let that go?
During that period, there were actually petitions that were taken to court.
Yes.
And there's an organization called Friends of Nairobi National Park. I remember they really spearheaded that conversation and ensuring that we rally and take these petitions to court. But again, you do realize NEMA is a governmental organization, so anything that the government supports, then they will. And I wouldn't say much about them, because I mean, they banned plastic bags, I support, but then they also banned the new ones. I feel like they should have really considered that before they let it out in the market, and then again they ban when people have already produced a lot.
As an environmentalist, have you looked into the reason? Because many people hear that NEMA has again banned, because there was a press conference and it was published out there in the press, that they have banned the new bags.
Yeah, non-woven. They call it
Non-woven.
non-woven.
So, what was the actual cost? I mean, but these bags went out for, I think,
quite
quite some time, right?
Yeah.
When the first ban was in which year?
Was in 2017.
2017.
Yes.
Early 2017.
Yes. Around June. The launching was in July, I think. No, in August.
In August.
Yes.
So
August.
until now, the whole of 2018, they were quiet. Now we are in 2019 April. Now they're now imposing another ban.
Yeah.
As environmentalists, what is your take on that, and what would be your advice or alternative, tackling to this problem?
First of all, I support the ban of the plastics. We do understand most of this plastic ends up in the oceans, ends up in the wrong places. So I do support the ban of plastic bags. And it was quite a joy, considering Kenya had moved to a more environmental friendly option.
Yes.
So I feel like they should have taken this to account, because you don't just let people produce all those bags and then come and tell them later that you're producing poor quality bags. I mean, so many companies have paid so much for these bags, and they're now saying we should do the Viondos, we should do the paper bags, not paper plastic,
like
but the paper bags. Feel like they should have taken that into account, because so many people are incurring losses. According to, speaking as a common mwananchi, I feel like they should have taken that into account, and at least let the options be of a wider variety for people to be able to produce them. But they should have taken time.
Someone will argue that Kenyans like to complain about problems they also see are problems. I don't know very well, but a case in point, the Rwanda case. I mean, Rwanda succeeded.
Yeah.
How was Rwanda able to succeed? I mean, Rwanda does these paper bags, no plastic whatsoever. You get to the border, if they have to, they'll provide you with, paper bags to put your whatever content, but all plastic bags and have to remain in the border. They have no way they enter into the country. I've seen the country is clean. If you go to Rwanda, actually,
Yes,
it's
it
a very
is.
clean country.
Yeah.
That notwithstanding, why as Kenya are we not able to do it?
Our bad habits. We just have bad habits.
Bad habits.
Yes, I remember I was working with a friend of mine, and he saw someone throw a paper,
Yes.
and that particular friend ran to that person and took the bag and gave it back to the person who threw it. So I feel like we have not really been made aware. I mean, people throw plastic bottles every now and then. Now that it has started raining, you will see most of the drainage filled with plastic bottles.
Sure.
So I feel like it's our bad habits that is just making us not get to where we want. But we are optimistic, and that is why we need this environmental education. We need to create awareness on all these factors that affect the environment. And once the public is aware, then it will be so easy to implement such laws, because it will be easy for them to welcome it, because they understand why we are doing this.
Yeah, actually, you kind of partially answered the question that I was about to ask you, the next question, because, I mean, we ban these plastic bags, but then we understand the bags are banned, right?
Yeah.
But then if you talk to many Kenyans, they don't quite understand what is the effect of these plastic bags to the environment. Should there be more like civic education, if I may say, civic education and more activism going around? You as an environmental activist, don't you think that you guys need to step up or do more in terms of creating that kind of awareness to people? Is the Kenyan public really aware of what environmental conservation is?
Yes, they are, but I feel like we also need to do more. We need to do more. For example, when I joined campus, we used to do a lot of cleanups. We go to a town and do a cleanup. But then you wouldn't find me doing that right now because I feel it's very unsustainable. Why would I go pick a paper and then the following day that same person who is not aware will come and drop it? And so it's an unsustainable way of creating of rather solving this problem. So I feel like we should do more when it comes to creating awareness. But then again, the government also has a part to play. I mean, can't we have bins all over town, in these small towns, in this, for example, in town, I feel like I can count the number of bins I have seen in town. So if we don't have such resources, honestly, someone would not find a place to throw their litter. Personally, I usually have a place where I put trash in my bag because over time it has become a part of me. I just can't litter. Yeah, so apart from us doing, the public has their part to play, and also the government to provide these resources. Yes.
But of course with proper education. But sometimes the government starts and then we see, then the trash will go for days without being picked. So guys will just continue to add. Hata kama imejaa mpaka inamwagika and it's starting to overflow.
Yeah.
That aside, like I mentioned when we began the show, on April the 22nd,
Yes.
the world commemorated the Earth Day. And you guys had an event, like you mentioned also, in Karen.
Yes.
Maybe you can just now bring us up to speed and talk to us a little bit in detail about what this event was like and what you guys did and what you discussed and stuff like that.
Okay, so this event was for MAPS, Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary.
Peace Sanctuary.
So we had, as Poverty.org, we had events in Benin, in Nigeria, in Uganda, and in Kenya.
All right.
So this is just a way of us getting to inform people at the grassroots level about what we are advocating for, which is protecting the Arctic Ocean. So this event, we invited friends, we invited people we know so that we could let them know what it is we fight for, because someone might think MAPS is the kind of maps we draw.
It's demarcation of land and
yes,
stuff.
It's not that. It's, as I mentioned, it's Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary. So Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary is trying to achieve the largest protected sanctuary in the Arctic Ocean. So what we are advocating for is to MAPS stops seismic activities, exploitation to extract oil from the ocean, the ships going through, which makes it cut the ice, and basically just protecting the species that exist in that particular sanctuary to avoid the ice from melting. So all this we want the people of Kenya to understand and connect and connect with them in such a way that they relate to what is happening to us down here. So this event, we had it in Arocha, Kenya, in Karen. So we just invited our friends. We had a time for MAPS presentation where we have a really nice presentation which we use it across the continent and wherever anyone wants to present it. So after the presentation, we allow time for questions. We allow people to bring in ideas to discuss what they think and how they can come in. And I realized it's really gaining momentum. So our end goal is to get our government to notice us and sign a treaty. So this treaty that Poverty.org sent a letter and treaties to some of these countries that are alienated with the UN. So for us to be able to achieve the mission of protecting the Arctic, we need like 99 signatures. 99.
Those are state signatures?
Yes, state signatures.
All right.
So that is a treaty. And then we have the MAPS petition, which can be signed by anyone. A common mwananchi can sign the petition. So when you submit your petition, you're helping us achieve our mission. And as we mentioned, the Arctic Ocean is Earth's greatest air conditioning system. So I mean, at the end of the day, it trickles down to where we are.
Yes.
It has been evident, we have experienced drought,
Yes.
we have experienced a lot of rains. For example, recently we had the Mozambique experiencing the cyclones, unfortunately. We can all tie that to the Arctic. Yes, so just getting people to understand what we do. We really had a good session because people brainstormed on so many ideas that we wrote down. So apart from that, we are also getting to recruit more people to spread the gospel. So in Kenya, we had 3 locations. We had one in Nairobi, we had one in Machakos. So in Machakos, there was a session at Machakos University where one of our ambassadors made a maps presentation. And then we also had one in Kilifi, in Bofa Beach. So in Bofa Beach, they did cleaning up of the Indian Ocean within that region, and also they brought so many people together, and also just to give them an update of what we do along those lines. So it was successful. It was successful. At least right now we can say we are gaining momentum and we are cutting across most of the counties. We have not really achieved much, but we are optimistic that we are going to get more people.
You mentioned petitions
Yes,
that are signed by individuals.
Yes.
The petitions are signed by individuals.
By individuals.
Are they found online? If they are online, how can one find them and just sign and maybe share with friends?
Okay, so the petition can be signed by anyone who has access to the internet. So you just log into our website, poverty.org. I believe you will put a link, poverty.org, and then when you get into the website, you'll find a place where you can submit your petition. So all you need to do is write your name and your email address, and then you just submit submit your petition. Your petition. So that really will go a long way in ensuring we achieve our mission.
You have a targeted number that you would like to achieve with the petitions?
Petition, as many as possible. As many as possible, I think. And for the treaty, I think we need 99 treaties from
Kenya
these
has
states.
signed or not?
Not yet. So we are just gaining momentum. We are trying to, you can't just go and tell them, do this for us.
Yes.
We want to do something. We want to let people understand it first, and then eventually I know the government will notice what we are doing, and it's a good cause of saving the humanity. Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about, people or the general public involving themselves, now that you mentioned the issue of the petition. When we talk about Darcy, Darcy is a guy who gave himself, who actually was a strategic director.
Yes.
For the strategic director, I guess.
Director of Strategic Initiatives.
Strategic Initiative,
Yes.
So he was very much part and parcel of the strategy that the poverty.org uses to approach the issue of maps. And when I checked his background, he did not study anything to do with the environment. But then his passion for environment pushed him to do this, and he did amazing works. We saw during the video.
Yeah.
He was a team player, and he would champion. He would meet with leaders in different countries and in different forums. He was on his way to Nairobi, like I mentioned earlier. We actually, personally, I was deeply affected because I was in constant communication with him, and even the day that he was taking the plane before he made the last video, we had a conversation, and just to get the news the following day. That aside, what would you say to our publics, and especially our young people, in terms of environmental conservation? Is it a must that someone study, or whatever little knowledge someone may have, and whatever little contribution they can make, what difference can it go, in terms of making a difference into the environment?
I was really moved when when we met the entire poverty.org team. You'd think this is what they do full time, but no, they're all volunteers. It's just an international non-profit organization, and we are all volunteers. People have things going on at the background. Darcy himself had his own job.
Yes.
Poverty, the founder, is an author, she's a musician, she is also an activist. People are doing so many things apart from volunteering for this particular
So
organization.
it's not a full-time thing.
It is not a full-time thing. And I was so moved by the amount of passion that they have. Can you imagine? Would you just volunteer for something that, I mean, who would
There's
do
no
that?
cash, there's no money at the tail end.
Yeah, now that you've mentioned money, I feel like the biggest motivating factor for us, I mean, for Kenyans, for
young people.
for young people is money, is money. And
Should it be that way?
it should not. It should not, because I find so much joy in volunteering. I find so much joy in just doing what I love. You don't have to have studied for environment or any science or what for you to become to become a conservationist. There are people who did something totally different. Even in the Kenya volunteer teams, we have journalists, we have people who studied agriculture, we have people who studied different things, but they're all in ensuring that we save humanity with our passion. So it doesn't have to be that you did something related to that. Yes.
You have a background on
environment.
science
No,
and
no,
stuff
no.
like that.
No.
Now, if someone wants to join your team in Kenya,
Yeah.
the MAP, should I call it the MAPS team or the Poverty.org team in Kenya?
The MAPS team.
How difficult is it, or how easy is it?
It is just very simple. Just come with passion. Just come with passion. It's all we.
Only passion.
Just passion and eventually commitment. When you finally understand, when you get to understand, because for me, MAPS is not just anything anymore. At first, I just got to know them, got to know about them on social media, and then eventually you realize you create such an amazing family, and you're all fighting for the same cause. You do realize they are in Canada, others are in different parts of the world, but this one thing has brought us together. It has brought us together, just showing how the world has become a global village. And there is so much love surrounding us. Apart from us fighting for this, we coexist with love, we coexist with compassion, we coexist with fighting for the same cause, which gives us strength. Yes.
As humans.
As humans.
And something that you mentioned, during the break we were having a chat with Abigail, and she mentioned to me that, this organization has not been in Kenya for long. It has been in Kenya since what month?
Well, I believe they have been here for some time, but this new team that is with them right now, probably in January this year or February
this year.
Yes.
And you guys have organized all these activities. I remember the last time we were with the Mesa, he was showing me pictures of you guys engaging university students, going in different parts of the country and doing this. And it's quite interesting because, as Abigail mentions, it's a volunteering work. I mean, it's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's about the passion. So the qualification is come with passion.
And then we will teach you, and you will become courageous like Darcy was. And
definitely, I think we need more Darcys
yeah.
to take on this, and lives like Darcy's life shouldn't go in vain, especially for someone who had sacrificed so much and had laid a foundation for actually people to step on to go to the next level.
Yeah.
I think it's an opportunity that most of us need to take advantage of. Maybe before we just finish, any activities you guys are arranging anytime soon, apart from what we've experienced in this week update?
Well, so far we've had two. We had the one that was pre-UNEA, the United Nations Environmental Assembly, where we involved mostly university students, and we really enjoyed ourselves, and people got creative. I remember you ran the photos and the videos. And so the second event was the Earth Day celebration, which was also an amazing one. So currently we are rolling a youth program. So that means you will expect more events involving the youths. It's not like we have a calendar yet, but I'm sure we will have so much. Yes. And for you to be able to know what we do, you can also find us on our personal social media accounts. Yes.
You have a general social media account you can just share with our viewers, maybe a Facebook, a Twitter, Instagram account?
So mine, because I will share all those things. find me as Abigail Kima.
Okay.
Kima on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. And also we have a page for the organization itself. It's called Poverty. It's a page, a Facebook page. So there you can also get all the information you want.
Okay.
And eventually we'll meet so many people and connect with us. Yes.
So in case someone has a bag full of passion, how do they reach out? Via email or just the social media platform?
At least right now, social media has made communication easier. So if you can
They
just
reach
write
out.
a message to us, you can write a message to on the Poverty page. You can write a message to me, because then you will have to undergo a training for you to become an ambassador. Because there are specific things that you need to learn first for you to become a team member. Yes.
Well, I think time won't allow us to speak much, Abigail, but I think we've spoke a lot, and we are really grateful that you actually had time to come down here and talk to us and shed more light on what you guys are doing and why it is important for other young Kenyans also to join, you know, the cause. In one straight minute, the camera behind me is your camera. Your parting shot.
Wow. Okay. So this goes out to people like me. I am a youth. I just finished campus. So your biggest motivation does not have to be money. And as I mentioned, not all heroes wear caps. It is the little things that you do that will make a difference. Plant a tree, sign MAPS petition. Those are little things that contribute to a bigger impact of protecting the environment. So join us, try and find something yourself to do that will make an impact and also to save humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abigail. Viewer, we have come to the end of our program today. We are really grateful that you actually found time to join us. I hope that this conversation with Abigail has been constructive and has really helped you and shed more light on many other areas that you are not very sure about. And that actually brings us to the end of our discussion today. For any comments, suggestions, or opinion, you can send that to our SMS line 21144. You can also drop us an email on info@gbskenya.com. My name is Timothy Omondi. Have a lovely day and bye-bye for now. Thank you.